Now let's turn our attention to Egypt. The land of the pharaohs is going to polls with about 112 million citizens. It's the most populous Arab nation in the world, Egypt. By far the most populous. About 25% of all Arab people live in this country. It's also the third most populous African country. So the politics of Egypt has a huge impact on the region and the world. And now it's in the middle of an election. Voting is being held over 3 days. 67 million Egyptians are eligible to vote. They will decide on the country's next president. There are 4 candidates in the fray. 3 relatively minor players. And the 4th is the incumbent president, General Abdel Fattah El-Sisi. He has ruled Egypt since 2014. That's when he overthrew the previous president, Mohamed Morsi. And this makes El-Sisi sound like a military dictator, but it's more complicated than that. Let me explain. In 2011, we saw the Arab Spring. That's when Arab countries revolted against dictators. Egypt was ruled by Hosni Mubarak then, a military dictator who'd been in power for almost 30 years. He was ousted after the Arab Spring. And a few months later, in 2012, elections were held, and Mohamed Morsi became president. He was also a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, an organization with ties to Hamas, an organization considered extremist and now banned in Egypt. So Morsi was ousted by the military, and in came President Al-Sisi. He helped bring stability to Egypt. He brought in a form of military rule that Egypt was perhaps used to, and he's remained president since. And now he's standing for a 3rd consecutive presidential term. If he wins, he will be in power till 2030. The elections began yesterday. They will run till Tuesday. And we should have the results by the 18th of December. Egyptians have been lining up to cast their vote. Many of them think it is their moral duty.
I am doing my electoral duty as an Egyptian citizen who cares about his country, its stability and the course of success that all Egyptians inside the country are seeking.
I came just now and found this large turnout. This is great. I'm calling on everyone to come out and participate. This is our precedent and this is our country, and we have to preserve it. Irrespective of the problems that we are facing, we are still better off than others, and we need to preserve this condition that we are in.
He spoke about the trouble that Egypt is going through, one of these people, but also how it's better off than its neighbors. Let me break that down for you. You see, Egypt has been facing an economic crisis for a while now. Since last March, the local currency has been on decline. That's the Egyptian pound. Its value against the US dollar is half of what it was last year. And this has caused turmoil. Inflation was officially at 38.5% in October, slightly below the 40.3% in September. And this is partially due to the currency devaluation. Egypt, in fact, imports billions of dollars worth of food. In 2021, they spent over $4.5 billion to import wheat. $4.5 billion for wheat alone. Last year, we saw the beginning of the war in Ukraine, and wheat prices shot up. Food prices in general shot up. And this took a toll on Egypt's import bill. So the currency went down and the food bill went up. All of this is weighing heavily on Egypt's economy. It is leading to real hardship for the people. But here's the silver lining. They're better off than their neighbors. And who are the neighbors? Countries torn by war like Sudan, Libya, Yemen, and of course Gaza. Egypt is an oasis of stability in this region. It is critical to resolving the crisis in Gaza. In fact, experts say the war in Gaza has affected the election in Egypt. The country's domestic problems have now taken a backseat.
Gaza war was a major boost for President Sisi, and like many other countries in the world, in the cases of external threat, in the case of a war, people tend to rally behind the leader.
Before the events of Gaza, the pressure on economic and the living conditions, as well as other issues, were questioned by people and had created a state of anger against President Sisi and big reservations against his policies. Since the beginning of the events in Gaza, though, there has been a state of calm and tranquility in the minds of many, who started to feel that it was better if the current president continues.
The Egyptian president has often been accused of cracking down on dissent, of targeting the opposition, of tightening his grip on power, but no one is raising these objections right now. As the war in Gaza continues, Egypt needs stability. It is crucial for getting aid into the Gaza Strip and for negotiating with all the geopolitical players here. Egypt was the first Arab nation to recognize Israel. It shares decent ties with the West. It is also a major Arab player that borders Gaza. All these points make it the perfect middleman in the current crisis. In this situation, Al-Sisi's re-election is pretty much guaranteed. Right now, the world needs a stable Egypt, and this man is their best bet.